Oh boy, it's been a while. I was gonna come on with a video kind of explaining where I've been and all of that, but with everything going on in our world right now, that just seemed kind of stupid and futile, and my problems are so minor compared to things that are going on in our world right now. Our world is in a very broken space. If you do want to know, I sent out an email to those of you on my email list, and if you want that email to kind of know where I've been and why I've had to take a break from YouTube and just what's been going on in our life since I think February was my last post. It's now June. You can just simply send me an email at Kate, K-A-I-T, at loveMotherblog.com, and just write in the subject line, add me to the list or something like that. And I can manually add you, and then I'll resend out that email. The email went out to those of you who have asked on Instagram kind of what's been going on, but I can also send one out to you as well. I just didn't feel like it was appropriate to make a video with, just in light of everything that's been going on lately. This is an important topic. Yeah, let's just get into it. So there's a couple of things I need to discuss, not want to discuss, but need to. I can't stop thinking about it. I've been having dreams about it. It's just not sitting well with me. And honestly, I really resisted commenting on this because there was a lot of people that jumped to make videos about this with shocked face thumbnails and just inappropriate titles. But if you're here, you're likely here because you are involved in the foster care or adoption community. And even if you're not, I'm sure you've heard about the Micah and James Stauffer rehoming failed adoption situation with their son Huxley that they adopted from China. If you don't, I'll leave the link to another YouTuber named Katie Without a Crystal Ball, I believe is her channel. I'll leave the links to her videos. She covers the story really like in a reporter type way, where a lot of the other videos, honestly, I feel like people are jumping on the fame of this story and trying to grow their channels, their views or whatever in that way. So like I said, I didn't want to talk about this. I do not like confrontation. I try to keep things peaceful. This video will not be monetized. This is not to gain views or subscribers in any way. I need to make my intent clear with that. But as somebody who has a community of foster moms, adoptive moms here on YouTube, Christian moms, because this story has impacted a lot of communities, I think my silence is meaning something that I don't intend. And after being asked about my thoughts on this and reading some comments on some of Katie from Without a Crystal Ball's videos, as an adoptive mom, as a Christian, I feel like it'd be wrong of me not to say something and not to address this and just be silent. There's time to speak up and use your voice, and if you have any sort of online platform, to use that accordingly to try and create change and educate people. So I think it would be wrong of me to stay silent, but I just want you guys to know, to be clear about my intent in making this video. I'm not going to put his name or any sort of thumbnails with pictures of them to try and gain views. There's a lot of that going on, and honestly, it kind of sickens me what I'm seeing on YouTube. It's one thing to cover a story in a reportive nature. It's another thing to just, like, there's some horrible things being said about them, and although I don't agree, okay, God be with me. Give me the right words to say, help me articulate this well. So I've been following this situation quite closely, mainly because I'm heartbroken for Huxley. And I used to watch Micah Stauffer. I like watching cleaning videos, so I usually pop one on when I'm doing some cleaning. That's how I found her and started watching her. And then when she announced that she was adopting, I, was excited for her. I hadn't adopted our daughter yet. Our daughter came to us through foster care around the same time they adopted Huxley, I believe. So I was excited, but as her videos kind of progressed and some of the thumbnails and titles they were using, I just started to kind of feel icky about it. I still followed them on Instagram, but I stopped watching her videos. I just wasn't comfortable with some of the things that she was sharing about Huxley. Honestly, I felt some of the videos were exploiting him. I don't condone showing videos of children's meltdowns in any way, shape, or form, whether it's a regular toddler meltdown or whether it's something stemming from trauma or autism or, other special needs. I don't agree with it. I don't condone it. I don't tend to stay engaged with people that do show that type of behavior. I get some people are trying to have solidarity because we all go through it if you have a toddler, if you have a child with special needs, like you've experienced these meltdowns and these rages, perhaps, but sharing that on social media is just inappropriate to me. I know I wouldn't want people filming me without my consent in my most vulnerable and hard moments and putting that online for the whole world to see. So I try to give my kids the same respect. And this whole situation has really had me just reevaluate what I do share. I share very minimal about my kids, but there are parts of our adoption story that I share. And maybe some of you think, you know, me sharing my Meet Rosie video or our adoption day video, that is exploiting her. I don't think it is in any way, shape, or form. She is part of our family. We love her deeply. And part of what I try to share here on this channel is like the beautiful side of adoption and just how much she has changed us and how grateful we are to have her in our family. I certainly don't show any of her hard issues. You know, I may touch on some of her special needs, but I certainly don't show her in the throes of things or even talk about it. There's a time and a place for that in smaller communities of people who understand, not on a public platform like YouTube where the whole world can see. So that was my first real big issue, and where I kind of stopped just watching the videos because I didn't support it. So there was this side of me that just really started to dislike her content. And I mean, partly as somebody who creates videos on YouTube, I get it. People don't click on, oh, my family's great day. Like there's an element of entertainment or whatever, but people take it too far and clickbait videos. And there's a whole lot of that in the family vlogging world that is just gross to me. But I just felt like there was like a marketing with his adoption that started to come to be that just made me feel really uncomfortable. And, you know, I wish I said something back then, but honestly, she deletes any sort of negative comment, or did delete any sort of negative comment. She obviously can't keep up with the overwhelming flow of outrage that people have about this situation. There's a fine line between being creative and exploiting, especially when it comes to children. So I just started feeling really uncomfortable. So I had someone reach out to me, and something that really hit a chord with me as to why I'm actually making this video, as well as some of the comments I read. And I'm just going to read those to you now. Somebody said to me, like, she sent asking all my opinion, a big long thing about it. But what really struck a chord with me was, for them to be Christians is a pretty bad example. Not that they can't make mistakes or have flaws as Christians, but simply put, they know better. If Jesus is real in your life, you know better. Strive to do better and do the hard things. And I know that this is a really hard thing, but it's worth it because of who is giving you strength in that moment. So this, coupled with a comment on one of Katie's videos, it's sad that most of the other adoption channels say nothing about this. If I were one, I'd be outraged about this and say something. Instead, all the blonde Christian women talk about is forgiveness or are silent. To which someone replied, Micah is not a Christian. It was all a part of the act. A real Christian knows that we are to speak up for things that are not right. Which to someone else replied, I think unfortunately some Christians use the title to justify turning a blind eye. We are still called to hold one another accountable when doing something wrong, damaging to ourselves or others. And she goes on to say, I agree, Micah was never really a true believer, as people have come out and said it was an act to bring in Christian viewers that are drawn to adoption. And that goes along with the narcissistic personality disorder. This whole thing's been crazy and sad to watch unfold. So after reading this is where I really felt God calling me to speak up about this. And like I said, making this kind of video is really uncomfortable for me. I don't like it. I'm a peacekeeper. I don't like controversy. I stay away from it as much as I can. As Christians, it's not right. I don't feel like it's right for me to stay silent on this when God has given me a platform of people that this affects. So first, I just want to address my reaction, my honest reaction. So my honest reaction to rehoming Huxley and how they documented his adoption is honestly anger. And I believe it's righteous anger, although I'm really trying to give grace in this situation. This child has been through so much and is now going to be further traumatized. And the worst part about that is the whole world knows his story. Like I said, I'm trying to give her grace, even though it's a decision I am not comfortable with, nor do I think I would make. However, I was not in their home. I was not the one parenting him. Secondly, I do think she suffers with some mental health issues. There's been some doctors that have created videos saying that they strongly believe she has narcissistic personality disorder, and not even knowing a whole lot about that. I've done a bit of research, and a lot of it lines up. So the way she speaks in so many of her videos, like, how could you not love this face, and we will never give up, and our son is forever, you know, she says all of these things and none of it aligns obviously with her actions ultimately at the end. And there's repeated proof of this because she does document so much. And the way she handles his meltdowns, first of all, documenting them is totally inappropriate. But you see she has this kind of annoyed and so over it attitude. And to me, for somebody who struggles with what she says he struggles with, he comes out of these meltdowns that she's documented quite easily. I did go back after the situation came about that he was being rehomed, which is a horrible way of phrasing it, but that's the way she worded it. I did go back and watch some of these videos because I was trying to find some sort of justification in this. Like, she did document his meltdown, so were they that bad that it justified them giving up on him and putting him in a new family? They have been deleted for the most part. Any ones that were specifically about him, she still has some up with him and her family. I'm so glad they've been deleted, but she needs to further delete any more videos of him to try and give him some sort of semblance of privacy and his new family privacy in the future to come. So the other issue that I have a really hard time with is that they just seemingly went on creating these videos, didn't discuss that he was no longer in them or what had happened or where he had been. And I get when you're on YouTube, you don't put your whole life out there, but when you had largely built this huge following based on his story, people started asking and she just started deleting comments about it. That just seemed like super shady to me. And the fact that she just like continued to post these videos of her perfect life and then her trip to Bali when would have been around the time that they did find him a new home. Like, they're supposed to be grieving and there's, it just... So even their explanation video, which at first was titled The Hardest Video We Ever Have to Make. Again, a more dramatic title for people to click. Even that was monetized. They quickly, once they saw the backlash, they quickly changed the title to An Update on Our Family. But that has, at last check, 4.8 million views. I checked that last night. And they had it monetized. I don't know if they still do, but they had it monetized. I don't know her heart. I'm trying really hard not to judge. But when you put your whole life out there for people to make speculations about and judge, it's hard not to, just for the sake of Huxley. Like, part of me is happy he's in a new place because I don't think she was what he needed. Their huge following largely came from his adoption story, and they made hundreds of thousands of dollars off of that. And the fact that I saw that was monetized, just ugh. As a Christian and somebody who talks about adoption on YouTube, that is not okay to me. There's a right way and a wrong way to share about adoption on YouTube. I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. I'm not saying I'm the prime example of how you should share. I'm sure there's people that don't agree with my content out there too. YouTube can be a pretty crazy place when people start commenting. You question her motives and commitment to him in the first place. I do. I talk about adoption. I want to share, first of all, how amazing my daughter is. She is an incredible little human being that I am so blessed with. There are some really hard days in our homes, but I'm not here talking about that to the whole world, you know, and I want people to know how amazing adoption has been for our family and just like how much of a blessing it has been to us, and to try and like rid the fear that so many people have. I know my heart behind sharing. I know our world is an orphan crisis, and that's something that God has given me a fire in my heart to talk about. I want to see the orphan crisis ended. 400,000 approximately kids in foster care in the US alone. That doesn't include Canada. There are millions of orphans worldwide, whether that's socially, whether that's whatever. My heart beats for change for that, to try and help. I know I'm just like a drop in the ocean trying to help, but one drop is better than nothing. And that's my heart behind sharing about adoption on YouTube. I want to see more kids in good forever homes. Like, I hope my intentions with sharing is clear to you guys. My intention is to support moms going through this, because adoption isn't always sunshine and rainbows. There's definitely some beauty into it, but there's a lot of hard times and a lot of just hard things you have to deal with. I just want to be like that friend that is encouraging you along this journey. I don't have those kind of people in my immediate life, so I know other foster parents and adoptive parents don't have that kind of circle of people in their immediate life. That is my intent with this channel, is just trying to be that friend, that encourager, and that supporter, and to see more kids in good, happy, healthy homes. There's a whole lot of hard, whether it's foster care alone, foster care adoption, international adoption, domestic adoption. These kids deal with a level of trauma, and the levels are varying. So this is where I'm trying to err on the side of grace for the Stauffer family. Ultimately, I'm not the judge. We serve a just God, and one day they're going to have to answer to all of this, as we all are with everything in the way we live our lives. We all are going to have a judgment day when it comes to the ends of our life. All are going to have to answer for our actions. But the fact that she claimed to be a Christian, which seemingly is not the case, she never went to church, they never prayed, they never... there's just been a lot of speculation and proof. I don't know if it's proof, real proof, but a lot of people saying that she's not actually Christian. She just did that for the views of the Christian viewers who are interested in adoption. And that part of it is even more hurtful and harmful to me. I serve an amazing, powerful, loving God, and to use faith for views is gross. I really hope this is not the case. Only God knows her heart. I'm not here to judge whether she's a believer of Christ or not. As my friend said, if you have Jesus in your heart, you know better, you do better, and you know your strength comes from him. Let me just touch a little bit on RAD and where the grace I'm trying to give them is coming from. So RAD is a very difficult diagnosis to deal with in children. I honestly am and still am very fearful of it when adopting, because I know how disruptive it can be. Kids with RAD can be very manipulative. They don't attach to a caregiver. Okay, before I go any further, let me just read to you from helpguide.org. Reactive attachment disorder, or RAD, is a condition in which your child is unable to establish healthy attachment with you, their parent, or primary caretaker. This can lead to difficulty connecting with others and managing their emotions, resulting in a lack of trust and self-worth, a fear of getting close to anyone, anger, and a need to be in control. A child with an attachment disorder feels unsafe and alone. Children with RAD have been so disrupted in early life that their future relationships are also impaired. They may experience difficulty relating to others and are often developmentally delayed. Reactive attachment disorder is common in children who have been abused, bounced around in foster care, lived in orphanages, or taken away from their primary caregiver after establishing a bond. However, no matter how detached or insecure your child seems, or how frustrated or exhausted you feel from trying to connect, it is possible to repair an attachment disorder. With these tools and a healthy dose of patience and love, you can bond with your child and help them develop healthy, meaningful, and loving relationships. Oh, I have actually sat in on a conference from somebody who did this. They adopted from China and they had to find their child a new home. They were, as the mother, diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome. She did write a book about this. I'm going to try and link that down below if I can find it. I think Carrie O'Toole is her name, but I'll link that down below. But RAD is something that I was fearful about going into adoption. So I tried to do as much research as I can. I am in no way, shape, or form an expert or claiming to be an expert. But I have done a lot of research, and I have talked to moms who have experienced this personally, who are living with this day in and day out. I don't know if Huxley was actually diagnosed with RAD. I feel like 4 is a really young age to be officially diagnosed with it. And there's so many other factors like autism, and he's missing part of his brain, the trauma he experienced, the trauma from the move to the new culture. It's hard to say if they diagnosed him with that, or if he actually was diagnosed with that from professionals. It's hard to say. I just feel like 4 is really young to have an official diagnosis of RAD. But kids with RAD can be extremely manipulative. They can be extremely outrageous in their behaviors, can have scary behaviors. I have heard of a situation where a child has pulled a knife. There are some times when a family situation is actually not the best thing for a child who has a true diagnosis of RAD. And residential care is actually a better option for them because they're so used to being cared for by a multitude of caregivers, and they can't fully attach to one caregiver, one parent, one set of parents, that they actually thrive and do better in a residential treatment home, or a home that can give them what they need. Parenting a child with RAD, to my understanding, is like parenting 10 children at once. So I get that breakdowns happen. They absolutely happen with children with RAD, and sometimes they're absolutely justified. My bigger issue here is the things leading up to this breakdown, this adoption breakdown. Attachment, I've talked about this before on my channel. Attachment in early years is critical to how kids are going to attach later on in life. So even as a foster parent, if I can give them healthy attachment, if They know what it feels like to be my child and for I to be their mother. Whether that's temporary or permanent, how it turned out with Rosie. If they can attach to me as a foster parent, sorry, my video just died. If they can attach to me as a foster parent, they have a much better chance of being able to attach to another caregiver later in life. From that same website, these are some signs of RAD. They avoid eye contact, they don't smile, they don't reach out to be picked up, they reject your efforts to calm, soothe, or connect. They don't seem to notice or care when you leave them alone. They can cry inconsolably. They don't make coos or make sounds. They don't follow you with their eyes. They're not interested in playing interactive games or playing with toys, and they can spend a lot of time rocking or comforting themselves. So RAD is a very serious diagnosis. I am not negating that in any way, shape, or form. Do I think Huxley truly had RAD? I do not know. But this brings me to the biggest point that I want to make with this video. Going into adoption, you need to educate yourself. You need to be prepared. You need to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. There's no place for a savior complex in adoption. Adoption's beautiful, but it's hard. And I think that maybe if they spent more time in trauma parenting training, reading books, then maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. Maybe this wouldn't have happened. I think there was a lack of commitment to his healing and his therapy on their part. And again, I'm not in their home. I don't know how bad it was, but I do know it can be bad. And I do know there are times when removal of a child and put into another home or a residential facility is better for that child. Adopting a child with special needs and trauma, and knowing that, you need to go into that knowing that there is going to require a whole lot of love and patience to help him facilitate his healing. It's going to require therapy, which is going to require money. There's unconditional love required. In that last video they posted, she tries to kind of blame the agency that they didn't know his special needs, but it's not the agency's fault because the agencies don't always know kids' special needs. They have little bits of information as well. And you have to know that going into foster care or going into adopting. And there is no shame in it not working out if you have truly given it your best efforts. But it's just hard for me to see. And again, I don't see every moment, but they put their life out on public for everyone to see. It is really hard for me to see how they justified this decision. When I did go back and look at some of those videos, I actually saw a child who came out of meltdowns quite easily over how RAD meltdowns have been explained to me. I see him wanting to be with her all the time. I see him jealous when the other kids come because he is attaching to her. I don't see typical RAD behaviors. I see him making eye contact. I see smiles. I didn't watch a lot of the meltdowns and stuff, but that is no way for a child to be spoken to when they're trying to deal and heal from their trauma. Like, I know it's exhausting. I know. The thing is, financially, the Stoffers were very well off to get all the therapies he would have needed. Maybe he needed a live-in nanny. They could have hired a live-in nanny that could have helped really facilitate his needs. But what I see is so many videos. They have like 4 channels, so many videos being put out, not putting time and effort to meeting his needs because of the videos and their careers on YouTube. If they really wanted to make it work, I think it was time for them to step back from YouTube. I'm not saying that that decision is bad every time for every family. Sometimes that decision is warranted. We learned in our training that it takes however long that child experienced trauma, it takes twice as long and then longer in some cases for them to start experience healing. So Huxley was just on the cusp of some time to heal with the right therapist. I don't know. Again, there's just so much speculation around it. Ultimately, my heart just breaks for Huxley. Being a child YouTube star on a celebrity vlog channel, they have, with their 4 channels combined, like hundreds of thousands, millions of views, and have made hundreds of thousands of dollars. That kind of environment is no place for a child with such complex needs. And if they were committed to him, they would have stepped back from YouTube. I don't think there's any way that the YouTube community is going to accept them back after this. I just truly hope that they did exhaust all avenues and what they're saying is true about the professionals. I truly hope that they actually have peace in their hearts, that they exhausted all avenues of help. So many communities were affected by this. The adoption community as a whole, the international adoption community, the Chinese adoption community in particular. I am very worried that this might affect future adoptions or people in the process of adopting from China, because this has become a worldwide story and China knows about it now. Yes, honey. Well, this also affected the special needs moms community, autism moms community, faith community, if she's claiming to be a Christian but actually not. Like, it just affected so many people. Of course, Huxley is the most important person that this affected. So I want to end with saying knowing your limits as a foster or adoptive parent is crucial. Educating yourself and gaining knowledge is crucial. Commitment is crucial. Kids' well-being and potential further trauma depends on you being educated, you being committed, and you knowing what you're getting yourself into. I know I talk about how I think more people should be, because I think there's a whole lot of people that just have this fear of life's going to be hard and uncomfortable a little bit. But Jesus didn't move away from our brokenness and our sin. He stepped into it. And I think as Christians, especially, that's what we are meant to do, is to step into other people's brokenness. I've said this before, we're all broken, but for those of us who are a little less broken, we need to step into the lives of those who are more, to try and help facilitate healing and give help to these people, whether they're children, whatever your cause is, you should be serving in some way. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying to don't be so fearful of adoption and foster care. Adoption has been hard for us. Foster care has been hard for us, but the blessings and the joy far outweigh the hard stuff. If you have priorities over helping your child heal from their trauma, simply don't get involved. Like I said, I'm not upset so much about the actual removal and new family for Huxley. Somebody who is going to be committed to him, even though this yet another move for the poor little guy is going to give further trauma, I'm just praying that he's in a home that can really help facilitate his trauma, that somebody is really looking out for his best interests. The part that I'm necessarily upset about, because I know it's a real and valid thing that happens sometimes with adoptions. What I'm upset about is their actions leading up to this, how they handled this. If there was that many issues in the home, I believe they should have stopped YouTube, or, just James alone, he has like 900 and something thousand subscribers on a cleaning channel. Like, that is more than enough income to live comfortably. Financially, they have made so much money off sharing his story that they could afford the best therapies for him. They could afford, like I said earlier, a live-in nanny. I started talking about foster care and adoption on YouTube simply because when I was looking for information, I was like so hungry for it and I couldn't find it. And like I said earlier, I want to be that friend, that support, that person that you can come to. I know I don't have that in my immediate community, so I know a lot of you don't have that in your immediate, circle of friends. I loved watching people's adoption journeys. I love seeing families brought together, but there's certainly an ethical way to do this. Angela from This Gathered Nest, she's one of my favorite adoption YouTubers. I just love the way that she shares her story. She's very ethical. She never gives too much information. She doesn't show hard stuff. Like, she is the perfect example, I think, of somebody who does it ethically and shares it right and encourages others to get involved. And I'm certainly not that blonde adoption YouTuber that I think that person was referring to in the comments of that other video, but just didn't want to remain silent after reading some of those comments and being asked for my opinion on this. In no way, shape, or form some big YouTuber, nor do I aspire to be. I try to connect to a specific community of women. I'm just here to try and get more kids in loving homes, support those who are willing to step into that and willing to do the hard things and to choose love and choose commitment. And ultimately, I'm here to point people to the only one who can truly save any of us, and that's Jesus. Any good in me is to the glory of God. I am a sinner and a broken person. I have struggles. I am by no means perfect. But any good in me and any good that comes from my voice speaking about adoption and foster care is to the glory of God, because He has put that passion in my heart to speak out for this injustice in our world, these kids, these vulnerable kids. So I feel a little bit drained after talking all about that. I just want to end this in a prayer, because I don't know what else to do. When I don't know what else to do, I know the only thing I can do is pray. So I hope you can just take a minute to bow your heads with me and close your eyes and connect to our Creator and just pray for this situation. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for this day. I want to thank you for the people who are participating in this prayer and watch to the end of this video. First and foremost, I want to lift up sweet little Huxley to you, Lord. I want to lift up his trauma, his need for healing, his need for loving, stable parents. And I just pray, Lord, that he has that and that you have placed him in a place where he gets the help, the love, the support, and the encouragement that he needs, Lord. I pray for the new family that has him, and I pray that they will give him everything that he needs and that this little boy doesn't have to have any more trauma in his life and have to experience any more hard things and feelings of abandonment. And I just lift him up to you, Lord. My heart is broken for him today, wherever he is, Lord. Just place your loving arms of healing and protection around him and allow him to heal from this situation, Lord. I also want to pray for Micah and James, Lord. I just pray that going forth, they reconsider their actions, Lord, and their intent with things. And Lord, I ask you to forgive them. I ask the YouTube community to forgive them. I think a lot of mistakes were made. I think they were in over their head. So just work on their hearts and forgive them. I want to pray for each of the communities that this situation affected, and the anger and injustice and just hurt that people are feeling because of this. There's so many people affected by this, Lord. I just pray that those currently adopting from China with the right intentions and the right reasons, that their adoptions are not impacted by this, Lord, that this one isolated incident is not going to affect future adoptions to come. And I pray for each and every person that listened today, Lord, that you put something in their heart to speak up for the injustices around them, whether that's for orphan and vulnerable children, whether that's for the Black Lives Matter movement that is really prevalent right now, whatever injustice that you lay on their hearts, I just pray that you have them act in a way that is going to bring about change, that is going to bring about love. And Lord, I just pray that as globally, as a community as a whole, that we do better for these kids and for the various injustices in our world. I just lift up all of these things to you, Lord, and I pray these things in Jesus Christ's amazing, saving name. Amen. I feel drained. Rosie's awake from her nap, so that's it, guys. I just want to share my heart and just know that I didn't want to be silent and think that I condoned this behavior in any way, shape, or form as somebody in the adoption community on YouTube. So I'll see you guys in the next video, hopefully a little lighter than this one. But just go in peace today, and I love you guys, and I appreciate your support, and I appreciate those of you willing to stand up for these kids.